The bigger they are, the harder they fall. This biggity boy's a diggity dog. I have 'em like Miley Cyrus clothes off, twerking in their bras and thongs. Timber,
Face down, booty up. That's the way we like to walk.
Timber, stick an oil spill. Shit you won't, but I bet you will. Timber, swing your partner round and round. End of the night, it's going down. One more shot, another round. End of the night, it's going down. Swing your partner round and round.
End of the night, it's going down. Swing your partner round and round. End of the night, it's going down. One more shot, another round. End of the night, it's going down. I'm yelling timber, you better move. You better dance. Let's make a night. You won't remember. I'll be the one. You won't forget. Down. I'm yelling timber. You better move. You better dance.
I make a night. You won't remember. I'll be the one. You won't forget. You won't forget. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
Look at the sky, the birds are playing. Not just me, just doing my thing.
Living in hotels,
So
sitting on
planes.
planes.
Nice to say, yeah, money in a bank.
Jumping like a
Run now.
What do you mean, another round?
Homie.
About clown. Why? Because it's about to go down. Swing your partner round and round. End of the night, it's going down. One more shot, another round. End of the night, it's going down. Swing your partner round and round.
End of the night, it's going down. I'm yelling timber, you better move, you better dance. Let's make the night. You won't remember, I'll be the one. You won't forget you going down. I'm yelling timber, you better move, you better dance.
Let's make a night. You won't remember. I'll be the one. You won't forget.
Ooh, timber, ooh, ooh.
Oh, oh, oh.
Love you guys.
Wave Beats Music.
what do you reckon? We roll with one more song and then we'll kick off.
Okie dokie.
Okay.
I'll give it a try this time, okay?
Sure thing. Awesome. Ooh, Dumpster, you little devil. Looking for romance.
Okie dokes, let's roll. Let's roll with the show. You with Dumpster Truffles, broadcasting around the world and across the galaxy. And I'm with two beautiful ladies. We got Oz Anon and Carmen Morrison. Do you guys want to say hello to the world?
Good morning, everybody. It's good to have you with us.
G'day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Awesome. Awesome to. I feel truly blessed.
Yes, and it's good fun too.
Whoops. Hell yeah.
Okay, so greetings all. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, you might be a young mum, you might be a student, you might be a shift worker, you might be playing golf, you might be doing your morning walk, but whatever it is that finds you here with us at the moment, it's a good thing because you're with us and we're together and we're doing it, if that makes any sense. So whatever you're doing, I'm glad to have your company. But most of you are Americans, so it's a fair bet that it's 6 a.m. in the morning for you. That means get out of bed, leave those toasty warm duvet covers, and put a pot of coffee on. Then your pants, and then get ready for the day. Good morning, everybody. And we got Oz and On says, you Yankees. And we got EBE, who I believe is Erica. We got BE, Reggie, Storm, Lane, and a couple more that I can't quite remember that aren't on the screen at the moment. But hello to you as well. And yeah. Time to get vertical, time to get caffeinated, time to face the day. Started at 6 a.m. and then end it whenever you feel like, whenever you feel sleepy. That's the normal way to do it. And for Lane Lair, it's 5 a.m. That's ungodly, Lane. You've made a big effort to be with us. Good on you, mate. Thank you.
And for us Aussies, it's what is it? It's 8:10 in the evening. Awesome, perfect time. We're cruising.
For Australia, it is, yeah. And it's about 11 o'clock in the UK, roughly 12 o'clock in Madrid, which would make it 1 or 2 o'clock further across the European map. So that's the time zone sorted out. Would you guys like to say anything? Does anyone have any words of any updates about Puppy Max? I spoke to him briefly this afternoon, but I'm not really sure how he's doing. I understand that Ozanon has more information on that. Can you provide us with that, please?
Oh, well, I haven't spoken with him, just a couple of messages of support and not wanting to be a pain in the neck to him, you know. But he did say that he was going to take a week off. I think he sent us the message, the group message, and we just wish him, you know, we send him all our love. Can't wish him the best. It's, not possible. He's going through a really rough time and he's lost a dear friend in terrible, tragic circumstances. And all we can do is just be here for him and pray. Send him our prayers and love and hope that he'll be back with us as soon as he's up to it.
And we've got Principal Driven out there. How you doing, PD? And with Puppy Max, it's just a terrible, shocking thing to have happen. And it would have been bad enough had it been through one of the many natural causes that we are all subject to die from at some point. It was actually a violent incident, which makes it so much more horrifying and stressful for Puppy. But we'll be there for Puppy. He can take as much time as he needs. He can. I will make allowances going forward for him, I think. And I hope he's doing okay. And if you're listening, Puppy, don't beat yourself up, mate. This is how life goes, mate. And I feel for you, brother. I do.
He did say to thank everybody in YouTube for their support and prayers too.
Okay, so this evening we've got a devotional. Then we've got a set of articles. This is dealing with the destruction of the planet, the death of the planetary ecosystem. And then we've got Oz's stuff from the Chans. Some of it looks pretty damn awesome. So I'll do that in 2 parts maybe. And then depending on how we go after that, we'll freestyle and we'll stick around for a while and play some music and have a bit of a chat, hopefully a few laughs if we can. And after that, that'll be the end of my Wednesday night and I'll be off to bed. And you guys will be out the door with a smile on your face. And I'm so glad that you could all make it to have breakfast with Oz, Carmen and Dumpster.
Servers are very quiet. Even the Chan is sort of just limping along at the moment, which in my experience is always a sign that there's going to be some activity coming up very soon. So I'm just enjoying the lull, actually. It was a bit hard to find very late breaking notables. I pulled a few in from yesterday in case people just didn't know about it all. have missed it, in case you missed it. But yeah, it's the calm before the storm, and there are many storms ahead. Whoa.
Yeah, something's up when the internet is quiet, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's really quiet.
It's weird, isn't it? This happened to me a couple of weeks ago. The internet was just dead quiet. There was no one around, no one doing anything. So,
Well, I think people are busy digging. A lot of people are doing a lot of research and going over, because there's been so much information come through over the last 3 months, enormous amount, and just trying to keep up to date with what's happening is a challenge in itself. But where we go one, we go all. We all help each other. We all bring in information, and not just here. I don't mean just here, but I mean for the Great Awakening, for the greater good. So many heads together, it's always a better result. Well, usually.
No, we'll crack out a decent show for you, so stick around, guys. BE's got an interesting comment again. Stop that, BE. Wasn't it cool that Polly got featured on Hayden? That would be amazing, Polly, but I don't know who Hayden is. Any information on that, BE? Yes, and Regina makes the point. Where we go one, we go all. Worldwide. This is worldwide, baby. Carmen, would you feel comfortable commencing the devotional?
Okay. This comes from Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 through 11. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." Jesus answered, "It is written, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. "If you are the Son of God," he said, "throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike your foot against a stone." Jesus answered him, "It is also written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. "All this I will give you," he said, "if you will bow down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." Then the devil left him, and angels came and attended him. Now, if some of y'all are of the same approximate age I am, you'll remember Flip Wilson and his little character that was always claiming, "The devil made me do it." This comes from Lifeway.com. Said many of us grew up hearing that catchphrase, and it affected the way we see the devil. We believe he has the power to make us do things, or we imagine him as a little guy wearing a red suit with a pitchfork, sitting on our left shoulder, whispering in our ear. And meanwhile, there's a little angel perched on our right shoulder, trying to counteract whatever temptation the devil is whispering to us. And in the cartoons, the devil usually won. Is that how temptation works? Is the devil really equally as powerful as God? Can he make us do anything we don't want to do? The short answer is no. Jesus made it clear that the one who is in us is greater than the one that is in the world. The truth is, the devil doesn't have any power over us that we don't let him have. God doesn't tempt, but he does test us. The testing of our faith produces perseverance. Perseverance isn't just a desired quality for the mature Christian, it's an essential one. James goes on to say that perseverance must finish its work in a Christ follower so that he or she can be mature and complete, not lacking anything. So God is going to do what it takes to produce that quality in us. What is an area of your life in which you are being tempted right now? Is it better to ask God to remove the temptation or to ask God to help you pass the test? Realize that not every temptation can be easily removed, but God does provide a way of escape for every temptation. So you may be praying for the wrong thing. If the temptation isn't removed, then pray that you can pass the test. The primary defense against temptation is the Word of God. The three temptations Matthew recorded for us fall into broad categories that can be applied to temptations we face today. First, there was an appeal to physical needs. Jesus was hungry, and the devil tempted him to make the stones become bread. Second, there was the temptation to take a shortcut. Jesus knew what he needed to do to fulfill the Father's plan. He had to go to Jerusalem, suffer, and be killed. The devil tempted Jesus to bypass all of that with a dramatic display of God's power that would firmly establish Jesus as the Son of God. Finally, the devil tempted Jesus with power. I will give you the kingdoms of the world if you will worship me. Jesus responded to all three of the devil's temptations with Scripture. Notice he didn't say, "Hold on a minute, devil, while I look up this verse." He had God's word hidden in his heart so that he wouldn't sin against God. As Christ followers, we need to be in God's word every day, not just pulling the Bible off the shelf in case of emergency. When Paul described the armor of God in his letter to the church in Ephesus, he called the Word of God the sword of the Spirit. It is the only offensive weapon in the entire arsenal. And don't miss the purpose for the full armor of God in the first place. Ephesians 6:11 says, it is so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. When we resist the devil, he flees and the Spirit strengthens us. Verse 11 says that the devil left Jesus and angels came and attended him. When you compare Luke's account of the temptation, you see the phrase, the devil left him until an opportune time. We know that the devil will never leave us alone for long, but the promise we have from Scripture is that when we resist the devil, he will flee from us. Don't miss the word flee. Flee is something someone does when he is on the run from a superior force. The devil's a coward. He picks on us when we are feeling weak, but he turns tail when we show the first sign of strength. And he knows that there are plenty of easier targets than a Christ follower who stands up to him with God's word. The promise of God is that his Spirit will help us in our weakness. And I'd like to offer the Lord's Prayer at this time. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
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 Hey, Carmen, what I got out of that was faith is a day-to-day thing. It's not lightning bolts and revelations and thunderbolts and hearing testament and so forth. It's about doing the same thing. Faith is a day-to-day thing. It becomes part of your life, and it gets stronger.
Yes, and it's about every minute choosing the right thing to do.
That's a really good way to look at life, as a series of opportunities to do the right thing. To sit back for a minute and think about your actions, and do your actions actually praise Christ? You've got me thinking with that one.
Good. That's what it was intended to do.
Excellent. Okay, that was the first slot. Can we have a little music, please? Hang on, I'll give it a go.
Sure.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, let's see if it's kinder to our friends in chat, to their ears. Let's see if it works, eh?
Okay, there's Elvis.
Oh, no, I mean to play the clip, like play the music, not to use Elvis.
Oh, you want me to open up the Happy Mandolin song and see if that plays for them?
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Oh, this is awesome. This may actually work out really well.
Fingers crossed. Mandolins crossed. Violins crossed.
And that worked rather well, apparently. Hey, good morning, Punky. And we got Marielle. And there was one other I forgot. Someone else snuck in that I've forgotten. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Is there anything that needs to be done before I kick off with slot 2?
Sorry, Dumpster, I've got to jump through 4 screens just to get back to push the chat.
Okay.
No, all cool with me. How about you, Carmen?
I'm ready.
Beautiful. So this one is called Are We Living on a Dead World? And let's just take a moment to think about the ecological damage that the cabal has done to our planet. And I say our planet as in ours, yours and mine, not theirs. let's think about the ecology, what we've lost, the damage that we've done to the natural ecosystems, and so forth. Is it retrievable? Is it not retrievable? What have we actually done, and can we fix it? I will make the point now that we, you and I, the people here, did not destroy the planet. The problem is we were asleep at the wheel, and we put a bunch of psychos in charge. And this bunch of psychos have torn up the whole damn world. The environment for me is a real bugbear, aside from the obvious issues. But the environment is something that really gets me angry. They took something so pristine, so beautiful, and they could have managed it, and they didn't. They saw it as just another commodity. They never stepped back and looked at the planet as a single living organism. So if, as a group, we allowed them, that's them in the kill box, if we allowed them to ruin a beautiful blue planet, then as a group we can retake control of our planet. This is not their world. This is our planet. And 99.99% of us would not have allowed the rainforest to be turned into disposable chopsticks, or oil into plastic, and all the rest of it. All the needless, pointless ecological damage that has been done to the planet. And the worst thing is we don't have anything to show for it. They've torn up the whole planet, fished out the seas, burned down the rainforest, exterminated whole species, and we have virtually nothing to show for it as a species. So this is our planet. This is my planet, and 99.99% of us wouldn't have allowed this to happen if we'd been awake. So the ridiculous power imbalance is the root cause of global ecosystem collapse. So it's this absolutely ridiculous power imbalance where a tiny fraction of the population is at the very root of the global ecosystem collapse. So what is left of the planetary ecosystem for us to salvage? How much damage can we undo is the question. Have we already hit a tipping point where there is no coming back for a safe and a stable ecosystem? So has that tipping point been reached where a return to a functioning global ecosystem is now impossible? Or maybe this is another option. Maybe we can actually repair what is a broken environment. They are carnivorous. They destroy everything that they can, and that includes our planet. So what is the state of repair of the planet? Is it beyond salvage? I've got a set of 6 articles here that deals with the possibility that the planet is dying, possibly irretrievably, but this isn't the consensus of the articles. Each article has its own spin on the future, which is nice. And Prime Mover decided to show up. Good to see you there, Mover. How you doing, brother? Just a moment, I'm going through my files. Just a moment. Okay, this comes from an outfit called Eco Internet, and it's called The Death of Gaia, and it's by Glenn Barry, and it's from May of 2017. So this certainly isn't a new issue, but it's an issue that we're running out of time to answer, that's for sure. Okay, it is now scientifically known that the Earth system, or Gaia, if you will, is organized and functions similarly to other scales of biology, including organisms and old-growth forests. The Gaia hypothesis is that the world is a self-regulating, self-reproducing life form, and as such is alive. And as industrial human growth destroys Gaia's naturally evolved ecosystem organs, The human family is failing to embrace a rich and truthful, deep ecology understanding, long known by indigenous peoples, and that is of a living earth, and risking biosphere collapse. Not enough progress is being made on sufficient ecological solutions to sustain Gaia, such as protecting and restoring natural ecosystems, including a ban on old-growth logging, ending the use of fossil fuels, and ridding the world of war and inequity. Both powerful science deniers, as well as celebrity posers promoting shallow ecology, ensure Gaia's demise for their own selfish benefit. Thus, while the Earth is alive, sadly she is dying. So Larry says to a guy called Jennings, so this is Larry talking to Jennings, and Larry, while high, says, okay, that means our whole solar system could be like one. I'm not even going to continue with that. I should have edited it out. And I'll pick up this article just a little further down the road. Earth is a living organism, some call Gaia. This Earth system, all life's one shared biosphere, is composed of coupled ecosystems that cycle energy and matter, self-regulating like all organic life. Across scales of biological phenomena, there exist discontinuities, boundaries which can be abstracted, that differentiate a life form. Throughout the continuum of cells, organisms, plant communities, and even natural ecosystems, many entities can said to be alive. The Earth is the penultimate life form. And that's the essence of the Gaia hypothesis right there. This is my own comment. Earth itself is a single living organism. Gaia is alive. I will continue. Think of land and natural vegetation communities as similar to tissues in an animal. Blood and water are synonymous. The atmosphere, like cellular fluid, wildlife, including humans, is a special type of cell. All life across the scale is coded in DNA, the original programming language. Earth, like the human body, is intricately perfect, both engineered through epochs of iterative evolution to be resilient and reproduce. Earth's reproductive cycle can best be thought of as the re-radiation of species diversity, post-mass extinction, upon the same framework of inert, non-organic Earth. So Earth's reproductive cycle is everything except the dirt that it grows in. And think of it this way: if the Earth was a tennis ball, the middle of the tennis ball, most of it would be molten nickel and iron. Then there'd be a very, very thin crust of dirt and tectonic plates, and life is like mold that grows on the surface of the tennis ball. Anyway, that's my own comment. By such a measure, Earth is only a handful of generations old, or perhaps Earth's reproduction involves exobiology, seeding of planets, through rare dispersion events. In either case, the Earth system reproduces. As originally devised in James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis, the concept of a living Earth goes beyond metaphor and is a self-evident emergent property of natural ecosystems. Cycles, cells, microbes, forests, soil, oceans, water, air, plants, and wildlife are all miraculously alive, even as they create the conditions for life at other levels of organization. It is profoundly beautiful that life begets life. For far too long, the concept of living natural ecosystems has been denied and denigrated. A naturally evolved old-growth forest ecosystem is no less an organism than you or me, or Gaia herself. Such complex, tightly coupled superorganisms make life possible. So let's be clear here. Cells are not organisms, nor are old-growth forests exactly like the biosphere, yet they are remarkably similar. Each are bounded with subsystems cycling energy and matter to remain intact, that is to say alive, while they reproduce. The Earth, like organic life across scales, is alive, yet needlessly dying as industrial growth overwhelms natural ecosystems. Natural ecosystems are being murdered in a plague of democratic resource gluttony in a relatively short time geologically. I'll repeat that. Natural ecosystems are being murdered in a plague of democratic resource gluttony in a relatively short geological time, geologically speaking. Industrialism radiated from Northern Europe in waves of ecological colonialism. The concept that nature exists only as a resource to be consumed is now universally embraced. Millions of years old natural ecosystems that constitute Gaia's living flesh continue to be liquidated in an ecocidal death wish misconstrued as development. I'll read that again because that's crucial. Not to put too fine a point on it, but this is the whole thing. Millions of years old in natural ecosystems that constitute Gaia's living flesh continue to be liquidated in an ecocidal death wish misconstrued as development. Under such circumstances of runaway exponential growth, amidst resource scarcity, driven perma-war, and grotesque inequity, certifying natural ecosystem destruction, or waxing eloquently as one overconsumes, is even more dangerous than denying climate, ecology, and other scientific truths. My own note here is I'm not dealing with the carbon dioxide debate. We all know that that's horse flop designed to impose a worldwide carbon tax, but that's not the focus of this evening's set of articles. So Donald Trump's fact-free. Sorry, I didn't write this article, and it's not very. Doesn't paint a very good picture of anyone really. Old growth forest logging must end. Natural ecosystems to be restored. Fossil fuels ended. A steady state economy achieved, and equity, peace, and justice embraced. Or Gaia dies, and our being ends. Only profound, radical, science-based social change that embraces a deep ecology vision of a living Earth by reversing natural ecosystem loss will prove adequate to avoid biosphere collapse. So the author of this article, whatever his name was, I've forgotten, he actually thinks the situation is retrievable. And I will point out that was written 3 years ago. And not much has been done about it yet. So if we are going to save the planet, we've either run out of time or we're about to run out of time. I'll just move to my second article now. Okay, the byline here for this one is Jeremy Hance, and he writes out of The Guardian, and this was posted on October of 2015. And it's called How Humans Are Driving the Sixth Mass Extinction. Scientists have been warning for decades and decades and decades and decades that human actions are pushing life on our shared planet towards mass extinction. Such extinction events have occurred 5 times in the past, but a bold new paper finds that this time would be fundamentally different. Fortunately, there's still time to stop it. And again, this was written in 2015. Periodically, in the vast spans of time that have preceded us, our planet's living beings have been purged by planetary catastrophes so extreme they make your typical ice age look like the geological equivalent of a stroll in the park. Scientists count just 5 mass extinction events in an unimaginably long expanse of 450 million years, but they warn we may well be entering a sixth extinction level event. According to a bold new paper in the Anthropocene Review, this time would be different from past mass extinctions in 4 crucial ways, and all of these stem from the impact of a single species that arrived on the scene just 200,000 years ago. That's us, that's Homo sapiens. There is no point apportioning blame for what is happening, says lead author and geologist Mark Williams. With the University of Leicester, since humans didn't deliberately engineer the situation. I think that there is quite a good case for blame to be apportioned, and I guess we can play pin the tail on the donkey all day with this one. But I think there is blame that needs to be apportioned, and to say that since humans didn't deliberately engineer this situation, at the very worst, we allowed it to happen. At the very best, we allowed it to happen, rather. Sorry about that. Rather, we have to recognize that our impact is game-changing on this planet, and we are all responsible, and that we have to become stewards of nature as part of it, rather than behaving like children rampaging through a sweet shop, Williams noted. The impacts of a still avoidable mass extinction, a sixth mass extinction, would likely be so massive they'd be best described as science fiction. It would be catastrophic, widespread, and of course irreversible. In the past, it has taken life 10 to 30 million years to recover after such an extinction. 40 to 120 times long as modern-looking humans have been telling tales by firelight. Moreover, Williams and his team argue that future changes driven by humanity may go so far as to create not just a new epoch in geological history, such as the widely touted Anthropocene. Anthropocene means age of man, is my comment. I'll continue with the article. But a fundamental reshaping of Earth on par with the rise of microbes, or the latest shift from microbes to multicellular organisms. Fundamental changes on a planetary system scale have already begun, said co-author Peter Haff, a geologist and engineer with Duke University. The very considerable uncertainty is how long will these last, whether they will simply be a brief, unique excursion in Earth's history, or whether they will persist and evolve into a new, geologically long-lasting planetary state. Excuse me while I have a sip of water. And to continue, but what are these fundamental changes that would make this mass extinction different from the previous 5? Episodes of global warming, ocean acidification, and mass extinction have all happened before, well before humans arrived on the planet, according to co-author Jan Zalasiewicz, a paleobiologist with the University of Leicester, who said, "We wanted to see if there was something different about what is happening now." And it turns out there is. The teams of geologists and biologists that our current extinction crisis is unique in Earth's history due to 4 characteristics: the spread of non-native species around the world, a single species, that would be us, taking over a significant percentage of the world's primary production, human actions increasingly directing evolution, and the rise of something called the technosphere. Okay, I'm jumping a couple of sections here, and I will pick it up here. Over the last few centuries, humans have essentially become the top predator, not only on land, but also across the sea. No other species in the past can claim such a distinction. In doing so, humanity has begun using 25 to 40% of the planet's net primary production for its own purposes. Moreover, we have added to this the use of fossil fuels for energy, essentially primary production from the past. Never before has one species dominated primary production in this manner that we do now. Never before has one species remodeled the terrestrial biosphere so dramatically to serve its own ends. The huge amount of biomass in the animals that we eat. And I will pick it up in just a couple of paragraphs later. We are directly manipulating genomes by artificial selection and molecular techniques, and indirectly by managing ecosystems and populations to conserve them, said co-author Earl Ellis, an expert on the Anthropocene with the University of Maryland. He added that even conversation is impacting evolution. As human management of ecosystems and populations increases, even when aimed at conservation, evolutionary processes are altered. To sustain processes of evolution that are not guided by human societies intentionally and unintentionally will require a sea change in the management approaches. Finally, the current extinction crisis is being amplified by what researchers call the technosphere. Excuse me while I have a sip of water. Okay, now, this is all about what is called the technosphere. Peter Haff coined the term technosphere just last year. He defines the technosphere as the global, energy-consuming techno-social system that is comprised of humans, technological artifacts, and technological systems, together with the links, protocols, and information that bind all these parts together. Basically, the technosphere is the vast, sprawling combination of humanity and its technology. Hath argues that in our thousands of years of harnessing technology, including the first technologies like stone tools, wheels, and crops, the energy itself has basically begun to act practically independently, creating a new sphere, like the biosphere or the atmosphere or the lithosphere, but like nothing the planet has ever seen before. We're talking about the technosphere. I would argue that domesticated animals and plants, as well as humans, are part of the technosphere, said Haff. These are in effect manufactured by the technosphere for its own use on the basis of genetic blueprints appropriated from the biosphere. And according to Haff, we have reached a point where we can't just shut down technology. As such, the technosphere as a whole is elevated above humanity. In this sense, the technosphere already generates its own living tissue, thus integrating with biology, noted Haff. Although humans were like the original progenitors of this technology, we have in effect lost control. Like Dr. Frankenstein from Mary Shelley's great novel, not only has our creation asserted its own agency, but it now wields its power over us. Jumping ahead slightly. The concept of the technosphere is politically and socially disenfranchising and alienating people and societies, and their potential to guide, at least to some degree, this global human force behind the Anthropocene. To Ellis, the key is not the rise of technology, but rather humanity's incredibly rich social life. He maintains that our ultra-socialness is the major driving force behind the changes on the planet we are witnessing today. The next section I will address in this article is called Like Nothing the Earth Has Ever Seen. So, if humans were to go extinct tomorrow, then our impact on the biosphere would be recognizable as an epoch boundary. Like the boundary between the Pleistocene and the Holocene, and Williams pointed out. After us, a few tens to hundreds of thousands of years in the future, the biosphere would find a new equilibrium without us, and probably with its biodiversity largely intact. If the changes made to the biosphere by humans continue to accelerate and are sustainable, and if our interaction with the technosphere becomes a major component of Earth's future trajectory, then the changes can be argued to be really fundamental, Williams added. The scientists argue that the changes would be so extreme and so unlike anything that the Earth has ever seen before that it could represent a geological shift as big as the rise of microbes on the planet or the rise of multicellular organisms. For example, imagine a world where humans and their technology effectively control the global temperature through geoengineering, or a world where humans wholeheartedly and deliberately manipulate evolution for their own or the technosphere's ends. The next heading that I'll address is called What the F Do We Do? So what the WTF do we do? The researchers are clear. We can't go back in time to some pre-human, arguably pristine environment. There is no ending. The challenges of the Anthropocene are permanent, said Ellis. Humanity and nature are inextricably coupled for the foreseeable future. The scientists agree that to avoid mass extinction and tackle the current environmental crisis is possible, but will require large-scale changes, not only in how society operates, but how humans view their relationship to the natural world. It's about recognizing that we are stewards of nature and that every action we make will have an effect on the biosphere somewhere. If, at a very basic level, we could get people to make that connection, then we would have fundamentally changed human behavior. And still, the large scale of modern societies is daunting, Ellis cautions, and for these trends to reach their full potential will require far greater strategic effort. Just letting things happen will not yield a better future. We need a plan. People don't plan to fail, they fail to plan, is my comment. According to him, practical solutions will require a combination of conservation, restoration, rewilding, engineering, emergence, and design. We must recognize that there is no option to leave the Earth alone, Ellis added. The responsibility for the future of the planet is ours now. It's a big responsibility, bigger than any other species on Earth has ever faced, and so far we've hardly proved ourselves up to it. But there is still time, and time means hope, but not without action. Just a moment while I have a sip of water and go through my files. Okay, this comes from May of 2018. The byline is Damien Carrington, and this comes out of The Guardian. I quite like The Guardian as a source of information. Humans, the headline is, humans just 0.01 of all life, but have destroyed 83% of wild mammals. Now I'm just going to zip through this one real quick. We all know what we've done to the planet. This is just a brief analysis of it. Humankind, that is us, is revealed as simultaneously insignificant and utterly dominant in the grand scheme of life on Earth by a groundbreaking new assessment of all life on the planet. The world's 7.6 billion people represent just 0.01% of all living things. according to the study. Yet since the dawn of civilization, humanity has caused the loss of 83% of all wild animals and half of plants, while livestock kept by humans abounds. The new work is the first comprehensive estimate of the weight of every class of living creature and overturns some long-held assumptions. Bacteria are indeed a major life form, coming in at 13%. Plants overshadow everything, representing 82% of all living matter, or biomass, that is. All other creatures, from insects to fungi to fish and animals, make up just 5% of the world's biomass. Jumping ahead slightly, I would hope this gives people perspective on the very dominant role that humanity now plays on Earth, adding that he now chooses to eat less meat due to the huge environmental impact of livestock. The transformation of the planet by human activity has led scientists to the brink of declaring a new geological era, the Anthropocene. One suggested marker for this change are the bones of the domestic chicken, now ubiquitous across the globe. I'm going to jump that. Okay, the destruction of wild habitat for farming, logging, and development has resulted in the start of what many scientists consider the sixth mass extinction of life to occur in the Earth's 4 billion year history. About half the Earth's animals are thought to have been lost in the last 50 years. But comparisons of the new estimates with those for the time before humans became farmers and the Industrial Revolution began reveal the full extent of the huge decline. Just 1/6 of wild mammals, from mice to elephants, remain, surprising even the scientists. In the oceans, 3 centuries of whaling has left just 1/5 of marine mammals in the oceans. Despite humanity's supremacy, in terms, Homo sapiens is puny. Viruses alone have a combined weight 3 times that of humans, as do worms. Fish are 12 times greater than people, and fungi are 200 times as large. Okay. The researchers calculated the biomass estimates using data from hundreds of studies, which often used modern techniques such as satellite remote sensing that can scan great areas, and gene sequencing that can unravel the myriad of organisms in the microscopic world. They started by assessing the biomass of a class of organisms, and then they determined which environments life could live in across the world to create a global total. They used carbon as the key measure and found all life contains 550 billion tons of the element carbon. The researchers acknowledge that substantial uncertainties remain in particular estimates, especially for bacteria deep underground, but say the work presents a useful overview. Paul Falkowski at Rutgers University in the US, and not part of the research team, said, "The study, to my knowledge, is the first comprehensive analysis of the biomass distribution of all organisms, including viruses on Earth." There are 2 major takeaways from this paper, he said. First, humans are extremely efficient in exploiting natural resources, and humans have culled and in some cases eradicated wild mammals for food or pleasure in virtually all continents. Second, the biomass of terrestrial plants overwhelmingly dominates on a global scale, and most of the biomass is in the form of wood. Excuse me just a moment. And that's where I'm going to leave that article. This is the 4th article in the set, and it comes out of an outfit called Geoengineering Watch. And it's from January of 2017. And the byline is... I have no byline. I cannot find the author of this document. Anyway, the article is called... Oh, excuse me, I've got pop-ups. Okay, I will start this article. Even now, the vast majority of first world nation populations are completely oblivious to the unfolding environmental cataclysms that are closing in from every side. The unimaginable blindness is, unfortunately, willful in most cases. The majority choose to accept any power structure paid for, propaganda, disinformation, and lies of omission that enforces their comfort zones. A societal epidemic of normalcy has also normalcy bias, rather. A societal epidemic of normalcy bias also fuels the near total lack of wider horizon comprehension. Denial of reality does not alter reality. This fact will soon enough be clear to those who have so far chosen not to objectively investigate frontline truths. Fully facing unimaginably dire realities is difficult, but true solace and a true sense of purpose cannot be found by any other way. The report below is a harsh dose of reality, but if we are to have any chance of altering the course of certain omnicide means death of everything, which we are currently on, we must look through a clear lens and face reality head on. As dire as the report below may seem, it could be even worse if the critical issue of climate engineering was also addressed, which it is not. The next subheading is called Extinction is the End Game. Civilizations are living organisms striving to survive and develop through predictable stages of birth, growth, maturation, death and decline. An often overlooked factor in the success or failure of civilizations are cultural memes. That is, the knowledge, beliefs, and behaviors passed down from generation to generation. Cultural memes are a much more significant driver of human evolution than genetic evolution. Entire civilizations have been weeded out when their belief system proved maladaptive to a changing environment. One such cultural meme holding sway over today's governments, institutions, and society is our economic sense of capitalism. The pillars of capitalism represent a belief system so ingrained in today's culture that they form a sort of cargo cult amongst its adherents. A cargo cult are any of the various Melanesian religious groups which focused on obtaining material wealth, manufactured Western goods that came from cargo ships through magical thinking. So a cargo ship is Melanesian religious groups that focus on wealth, manufactured Western goods. Through magical thinking, yes. Religious rituals and practices. Today, the term cargo cult is used to describe a wide variety of phenomena that involve a superficial imitation of a process or system in order to fabricate a successful outcome without even the basic understanding of its mechanism. So basically that means that human society is some sort of headless monster that has just consumed pretty much the whole planet. And it makes the point that entire civilizations have been weeded out when their belief system proved maladaptive to a changing environment. I'm going to jump the tenets of capitalism. We all know what capitalism is. And jumping ahead slightly. If the truth were to be told, the corporate elite have long written off all those people living hand to mouth. And then we've got unlike workers, machines are always polite. They always upsell. They never take a vacation. They never show up late. They never slip and fall, or an age, or a sex, or a race discrimination case. Massive global unemployment resulting from the automation revolution has not yet been addressed by governments. This is all coming at a time when humans are fast destroying the ecosystems underpinning the very foundation upon which human civilization has developed over thousands of years. Mass migration and cultural tensions and give rise to fascist political movements. No conspiracy is needed to exterminate the useless eaters. That would be us. Just allow Mother Nature to take its course, and climate change will be killing billions by mid-century. Those in military planning know this and periodically express their fear of what is coming, but business as usual rolls on. Remember, this is an older article. And jumping ahead slightly, it's been clear for some time that we have passed the point of no return, triggering multiple tipping points in Earth's living systems. New findings are continually confirming scientists' worst nightmares. A key glacier in the Antarctic that holds back 10 feet of sea level rise was just described as breaking apart from the inside out. In other grim news, the long-feared carbon bomb has been, I'm not going to address that. Carbon is not the reason the planet is dying. Carbon is just a useful way of measuring our activity, and it's our activity that's killing the planet, to be clear. A new study also reveals that the planet's tallest animal is facing extinction after its numbers have plummeted in recent years, with the ominous warning that many species are slipping away before we can even describe them. Forests are being wiped out by armies of invasive insects. Because of a rapidly changing climate and the vast scale of the problem, the idea that reforestation will somehow save us is a pipe dream. So whoever wrote this article thinks it's no coming back, and this was written 3 years ago. Just a moment. Because of a rapidly changing climate and the vast scale of the problem, the idea that reforestation will somehow save us is a pipe dream. Those forests won't stay healthy enough to serve as carbon sinks, and besides, 7 times the Earth's land area would be needed in cultivation in order to reduce the planet's atmospheric carbon down to 350 parts per million. But that's neither here nor there at the moment. Jumping ahead slightly. Perhaps the fate of humans was written in stone once we stood upright and developed tools. To a large degree, modern technology has been an expression of the energy-dense hydrocarbon fuels we have discovered and are not willingly going to give up anytime soon. My own comment here is we're addicted to oil. Once fossil fuels ignited the Industrial Revolution and the Haber-Bosch process unleashed the human population bomb, nothing could stop the deadly carbon feedback loop. I'm not going to address that. Okay, from a throwback to our primate ancestors, modern humans have been hardwired to ignore threats that are not immediate or local, global, ecological overshoot, of which climate is just one aspect. It is imperceptible to the real-time cognitive processing of humans and represents the ultimate under-the-radar threat able to undermine our reasoning and response. The beauty and wonder of the planet is being trashed by a naked ape whose cleverness in tool building has far outstripped his ability to handle it in any restrained or judicious manner. Nature's rich book of life is being pancaked into a cheap, crumpled comic book. Okay, jumping ahead significantly now. The bottom line is that a swing towards authoritarianism happens when resources become scarce. This could be part of the actual cabal's plans, destroy the planet to destroy people. But anyway, I'll get back to the article. The bottom line is that a swing towards authoritarianism happens when resources become scarce. Free market ideologues are nearly always climate skeptics because acknowledging the reality of human-induced... Sorry, where was I? To be blunt, our chance of developing a sustainable culture passed us by a long time ago. People will try to adapt until they cannot, and myths will be created to explain away the harsh realities. A dystopic future in all its horrific glory has arrived. Baked in biospheric collapse, the inherent and irreconcilable contradictions of techno-capitalism, a dysfunctional political system unable to come to terms with root causes, and the cognitive dissonance of the masses, blind to the bigger picture. Our numbers are not a safeguard against extinction. And that's all I wanted to pull out of that one. That's the bad news document, and I actually agree with the sentiments within it. Okay, this comes out of the Scientific American, and I loved this article. This was great. It comes from way back in 2012, and the byline is Madhusre. That would be Madhusre Mukherjee, or something similar. Although there is an urban legend that the world will end this year based on a misinterpretation of the Mayan calendar, some researchers think a 40-year-old computer program that predicts a collapse of socio-economic order and massive drop in human population in this century might be on target. Okay, I'll pick this article up at the start. Remember how Wile E. Coyote, in his obsessive pursuit of the Roadrunner, would fall off a cliff? The hapless predator, that would be Mr. Wile E. Coyote, ran straight out off the edge, stopped in midair as only an animated character could, looked beneath him in an eye-popping moment of truth, and plummeted straight down in a puff of dust. Kersplat! 4 decades ago, a Massachusetts Institute of Technology computer model called World 3 warned of such a possible course for human civilization in the 21st century. In Limits to Growth, a bitterly disputed 1972 book that explicated these findings, researchers argued that the global industrial system has so much inertia, that is, the system that we live in has so much inertia, so much mass behind it, so much drive within it to reach a goal, that it cannot readily correct course in response to signals of planetary stress. But unless economic growth skidded to a halt before reaching the edge, they warned, society was headed for overshoot with a splat that could kill billions. And don't look now, but we are running in midair off the edge of the cliff. And then it sort of waffles on about a book for a little while, so I'm going to jump ahead. So, Instead, the latest global data are tracking one of the most alarming scenarios in which these variables increase steadily to reach a peak and then suddenly drop in a process called collapse. In fact, I see collapse happening already. Food per capita is going down, energy is becoming more scarce, groundwater is being depleted. Most worrisome, Randa's notes. Greenhouse gases are now being emitted twice as fast as oceans and forests can absorb them, whereas in 1972 humans were using 85% of the regenerative capacity of the biosphere to support economic activities such as growing food, producing goods and assimilating pollutants. The figure is now at 150% and growing. So we've already maxed out the credit card and we're living on credit that doesn't exist at the moment, basically. So, Randa's ideas most closely resemble a World 3 scenario, in which energy efficiency and renewable energy stave off the worst of climate change until after 2050. For the coming few decades, Randa's predicts life on Earth will carry on more or less as before. Wealthy economies will continue to grow, albeit more slowly, as investment will need to be diverted to deal with resource constraints and environmental problems, which thereby will leave less capital for creating goods for consumption. Food production will improve, increased blah, 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 and I'll pick it up there. Despite humanity's efforts to ameliorate, Randers predicts the effects will become devastating sometime after mid-century. And I'm going to jump ahead in this article. Okay, this is getting towards the tail end of this article now. Many observers protest that such apocalyptic scenarios discount human ingenuity. Technology and markets will solve problems as they show up, they argue. But for that to happen, contends economist Partha Dasgupta, that is Partha Dasgupta of the University of Cambridge in the UK, policymakers must guide technology with the right incentives. As long as our natural resources are underpriced compared with their true environmental and social cost, as long, for instance, as automobile consumers do not pay for lives lost from extreme climatic conditions, blah, 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 you can't expect markets to solve the problem. Asserting that the short-term focus of capitalism and extant democratic systems makes it impossible not only for markets, but also for most governments to deal effectively with long-term problems such as climate change. And here, remember, I'm not talking about climate change in terms of CO2 in the atmosphere. I'm thinking about carbon as a measurement of human activity. We're in for a period of sustained chaos whose magnitude we are unable to foresee, Meadows warns. He no longer spends time trying to persuade humanity of the limits of growth. Instead, he says, I am trying to understand how communities and cities can buffer themselves against the inevitable hard landing. And that's the end of that one. And I'll roll with the final article in the sequence.
Are you skipping the kitty cat?
I'm up to the kitty cat right now. Let's find out what kind of kitty cat.
Okay.
Nice.
Good morning, Scope. I'll just finish this article and I'll be with you right away, mate.
Good morning, folks. Sorry I'm driving. Trying to grab the phone, get to the right screen. How's everyone?
Doing extremely well, thank you.
Good morning, Scope. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Good morning, Osanon. Good morning, Carmen.
Good morning, Scope.
Glad to be here with you guys. I've been going through some valleys and hills, but I got my ears on, and hopefully I can grab the phone every now and again.
Awesome, mate. I'm just getting through my articles, then we'll have a bit of music, and yeah, good to have you with us. Stay safe. Don't text and type. Talk and drive. You know what I mean. Stay safe, brother. Okay, this comes from the 19th of March 2020, and it's by Jim Robbins, and it comes out of www.bbc.com. But don't throw rotten tomatoes at me for that. It's actually a fairly interesting article. Anyway, I will begin. As humans continue... Sorry, I'll just get you the title of the article too. Okay, this one is called The Plan to Turn Half the World into a Reserve for Nature. And I'm looking at a rather beautiful picture of a kitty cat. Looks like one hell of a cat too. I think that's a lynx or a bobcat maybe. Okay, as humans continue to rapidly expand the scope of their domination of nature, bulldozing and burning down forests and other natural areas, wiping out species and breaking down ecosystem functions, a growing number of influential scientists and conservationists think that protecting half of the planet in some form is going to be key to keeping it habitable. Once thought of as aspirational, many are now taking these ideas seriously now, only as a firewall to protect biodiversity, but also to mitigate continued climate warming. The report concluded that it's not only species that are at risk, however, the myriad life support functions that these species and ecosystems provide are also threatened. Everything from clean water and air to food to flood control, climate regulation, food, and a whole host of other services. Moreover, some scientists are concerned that the face of the globe has been so altered that the global ecosystem could be near a tipping point that would disrupt the climate and biological systems that sustain life and cause widespread and perhaps disastrous environmental instability. So, just a moment. Okay, jumping in, this is going to be a little out of kilter because I'm jumping in quite far into the article. It's a daunting challenge, even if the will is there, with some countries, notably Brazil and the US, moving in the opposite direction. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has opened up the Amazon rainforest to an onslaught of land clearing, logging, and agricultural development. And last year, the Trump administration eliminated the Landscape Conservation Cooperative Network. Blah, 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 blah. Still, there is optimism. Reports of large-scale climatic change, including the melting of Arctic sea ice, as well as the attention focused on 17-year-old Swedish climate activist Greta Thunberg, how dare you, seem to have stirred some kind of awakening. Younger people in general are focusing on environmental issues. And I will make a point here. The personal is political at this point, but I'll talk more about that at the other end of the article. The ambitious goals of campaigns like 30 times 30 and half-Earth have been met with criticism. Some question whether focusing on saving up to half the land's surface will do much for protecting the remaining biodiversity. In a 2018 paper, Stuart Pym, a conservation biologist at Duke University and others, argued that most biodiversity occurs in tropical regions, and much of it is already fragmented. They wrote how protecting broad swathes of nature in largely untouched regions, such as Canada's boreal forest, has benefits, but the remaining large wild landscapes are mostly in temperate regions, which won't do much for protecting biodiversity because by far most of the world's species are in the tropics. This begs our question of how much biodiversity will we protect if the trend to protect wild places continues. Okay, jumping in about halfway through a section. Nature must also be integrated into the places where people live, says Tabor. The biggest misconception about half-Earth is that there is going to be a bizarre construction where people on one side and nature lives on the other, he said. That doesn't work in terms of ecological function. And it doesn't work because there is a conservation value outside of protected areas. Conservationists also say that a major part of reaching the 30 or 50% goals is supporting Indigenous lands and community conservation areas. Indigenous peoples occupy or manage 28% of the planet's land, but more than 40% of protected areas. What are the biggest barriers to setting aside 30 and perhaps 50% of the planet for nature, even as global population continues to grow rapidly? The way our world agricultural system works, said O'Donnell, of the WIS campaign for nature, it encourages lots of encroaching on more and more land for cattle and farming. That's a key one. And setting aside lands for protection is by no means the end of the story. The Campaign for Nature is studying possible sources of funding so countries can pay for the cost of managing and protecting these lands. Among the many threats facing large tracts of land, including those ostensibly under protection, are road building and fragmentation. The number of paved roads is expected to double in the next 25 years, opening up large areas to illegal resource exploitation, poaching, and other threats. People will go first to the boreal forest or Central Africa for protecting large tracts of nature, says Tabor. But most of where the biodiversity exists is in fragmented areas. To have effective nature in those areas, we will have to have a connective strategy. O'Donnell agrees there are huge challenges. Just as the climate crisis requires major systemic change in the coming decades, it's the same with biodiversity, he says. There are a lot of other things competing for money and attention. And there you go. That's my report on the fact that the planet is dead, and I'm angry about it. Really quite angry. Okay, guys. If you'd like to pop a song into Discord, I'll play it for the folks at home.
Okay. If it starts with any ads or anything, just click the move, whatever it is, pass on ad.
Sure. Synthwave, cyberpunk, 80s electronica. Nice, very nice.
So if you're driving to work, like Scope is, take care you're not on the Autobahn when this song goes on.
Try slowly.
You're talking over the song. Grooving away. Hey, that was nice. That was really, really nice. Hey, Oz. Carmen's
Yeah.
not here, so I was thinking, what if I added some harder tracks to the mix, to the middle of the show? Certainly not to end with, and certainly not to begin with, but maybe a little bit of hard techno.
You say Carmen's not here, so let's muck up. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I haven't really put my stamp on any of the songs we played. I was just wondering if maybe every now and then I could sneak in something to get myself pumped up during the middle of the show.
Hey, of course, mate. The more variety and everything, the better. Yeah, go for it. Just
Beautiful.
don't get us thrown off. Copyright free.
Yeah, because I'd like a bit of something to get me revved up, something to get me going, and a little bit of hard trance techno.
Go for it.
And it looks like there's about 1 million yeses from YouTube, so I will add a few bits and pieces to the list, and we will expand our repertoire. Now,
Wonderful.
while Carmen's getting back, I need you to tell me, what is it about the natural world that you admire most? What is it about our natural world that you would really, really miss in a society, in a world where the ecosystem collapses? What is going to hurt you the most to see disappear? Is it the pandas? Is it fishing, hiking, skiing? What's your hot button issue for the environment?
Well, the thing that concerns me the most now is the attempt to. Whoops, my push to talk's jumping in and out. The sunshine, a full, beautiful sun. Without that, I think we're lost. And this experiment they're doing, this evil activity of darkening sorry, I'm getting a bit tired, the sunshine, the natural light, everything that's coming up. What are they doing? They're injecting particles into the atmosphere to reduce the amount of sunlight that comes through. And this is pure evil, absolute evil. And it's already underway, I believe. So, yeah, photosynthesis, sunshine, chlorophyll, life on Earth.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's all connected. We can't have one without all the rest of it. We don't get to pick and choose what we want to survive into the natural world. We either take care of the natural world as it is, or we kiss it goodbye and end up with farmed species. And I, for one, I'm a fisherman. I like to go trout fishing. I catch one fish every 3 treks or so. Roughly every 3 times that I go fishing, I'll actually catch something. And I really, really would hate to not be able to go fishing. That's one of the things that really gets me. To think that all the fish had died because people were eating disposable chopsticks and... anyway. And Jenna Elaine says, a clean ocean. You bet, Jenna. I used to surf when I was younger. And Prime Mover would miss crisp, cold, clean air. And blah, blah. I don't fly fish. I actually use baits. And crickets or worms or so forth. And, hey Carmen, are you there?
I don't think so.
Okay. I've got to jump up real quick. Can you cover for 90 seconds, Oz?
Yeah. How are we going, Scope? How's your drive going?
Well, I'm getting close. I'm up on a peak coming down. Hopefully I don't lose you. I was listening to what you guys were talking about, and boy, it really got me thinking. There was a picture out there not too long ago that was floating around. I might have to try and find it and post it. Showed the city of Los Angeles and California in the United States, North America. It showed a picture of the skyline of the buildings, the small, that you could barely see, the city from one of the rolling hilltops around Hollywood and Los Angeles there. And you couldn't hardly see anything. But since this COVID-19 has happened, and not as many planes are flying, not as many cars are driving. It showed a progression of how the smog had moved out of that city now. And the skyline is turning blue again. And you can actually see the buildings, count the buildings from the same spot. They took pictures. So I'll have to look for that later and throw that in here for you guys. But it was pretty amazing to see the difference that a few months of us not buzzing around in the air and on the road made in that city. It was quite stunning. I just couldn't believe my eyes. I thought it was actually a picture that went back some years ago, and really couldn't understand the graphic when they first threw it up there. After looking at it for a while, I understood exactly what they were trying to get at. And one of the other things that I happened to think about were all of the streams that are here in America, North America. When we first came here back in the 1400s, and started migrating to this country, you could basically, from what I've been told, you could drink out of every stream and every river that was here in North America. It was so clean and clear, and the water was so beautiful and fresh that you didn't have to worry about the pollution as much. And now it's really tough to be able to find any particular stream or river that you could freely drink from. So those are some of the things that I think about as the air and the water. We want clean air, and we definitely want clean water.
You made a great comment there.
Definitely.
You made a great comment there, and it's about time. And time is elastic. We look at time only from our own perspective, which is minute to minute, day to day, week to week, year to year, and then we die. But if we look back at how quickly we've destroyed the planet, it's virtually overnight in a geological sense. So, like you said, it was just a couple of hundred years ago that the whole continent of North America was basically wild, unspoiled, I guess, is the only word that fits. And if you looked at time in relative terms, it's the blink of an eye since cowboy times between then and now. And look at the amount of damage that's been done. It's unbelievable. And we got Laura Heath out there in YouTube. Do you reckon you could come up with some Q posts for us? Good morning, Laura Heath. Q analysis time, if you would be so kind. And good morning, Laura. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Okie dokes, folks. How shall we proceed? We've got Oz's articles, of which there are plenty, and some of them are pretty good too.
Sorry, Dumpster. I'm off in other areas, just trying to see if there's anything. It takes me a little bit to get back here again. So, by all means, go ahead with whatever you feel like doing.
Can I get another 90 seconds, please, Oz? Can you fill in for just 90 seconds? Tell us your favourite thing to do in the great outdoors, and I'll be right back.
Man, I hate it when he does this. I don't like talking. Okay, the great outdoors. What do I like doing? I like hiking. I haven't been for quite a while. Been able to do it. I've had a fractured foot, and I went for a third X-ray today, and it's not looking too good. the healing's very, very slow, but I do have an autoimmune disorder, so that's probably the case. So no hiking for me at the moment. And my corona sort of stops us hiking anyway. Great outdoors, tennis. I like to play tennis. I like to watch tennis. I particularly like to watch Rafael Nadal. What else? I like bike riding. Swimming. Love swimming. Love snorkeling. Absolutely love snorkeling. And whoever it was that was on chat there that said clean water. And of course Scope said clean water. Yeah, there's nothing like being underwater, snorkeling, crystal clear, surrounded by fish. It is just out of this world, and yet it's on this planet. Sorry, my push to talk keeps dropping out. Yeah, that's about it. Really, I'll do anything, go anywhere. I just like life. And this push to talk keeps dropping out. Scope, what do you like? The great outdoors.
Hey, Scope, that's a hell of an image. That shows exactly how destructive we are as little naked monkey men.
Yeah, I was looking for that and happened to come across it. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing. The top picture is the before, right when the COVID-19 started. And the picture in the middle is the progression of it. I don't know how long that was. And it talks about, at the top, it says, the city of Los Angeles before the shutdown, a week ago during the shutdown, I guess is the middle picture. And then the one on the bottom is a current picture, a relatively new picture. And look at the skyline. You can see the clouds were coming back. You can see the city, the buildings. You can actually count them. Where in the first picture, they were just lost in the smog.
Okay, guys, are you ready to hear some of Oz and Onz's filterings from the interwebs? She casts a broad net and she's caught many articles. Okay, Article 1. Chipotle, I think I got that right. Chipotle Mexican Grill Incorporated will pay $25 million to resolve criminal charges related to the company's involvement in food-borne illness outbreaks that sickened more than 1,100 people between 2015 and 2018, the Department of Justice announced today. So I guess tacos just got dodgier, I guess. Anyway. Okay, excuse me a little bit of profanity here, but it's I think it's appropriate. This is a tweet from Dan Bongino. I just found out that a friend of mine I knew from the neighborhood hung himself after being let go from his job. But yes, you stupid bastards telling us all to shut it all down or people will die. Keep lecturing us from your faux high ground. Pardon my language, but fuck you. And that's from the man Bongino.
Wow, that's a terrible, terrible thing to hear, that people are put in such a position. They're squeezed so hard by the trudges of life that they hardly see a way out sometimes. It's unbelievable. I hope that the family of the friend is okay, and I know that Dan Bongino will do everything that he can within his power to try to right that wrong.
Hey Oz, do you reckon you could post that the cop who goes mental and yells at people about the 3-month furlough?
Whoa, are you sure? That's very heavy.
Okay, I'll get it. Hang on, T.
I think it actually fits in.
Yep. All right. Just give me a few moments.
And if you've got little ears in hearing, in earshot, if they're little enough that they'll pick it up and repeat it, probably take them out of the room. If they're young enough to understand what it means, they're probably old enough to know what it means. So, fair warning. But to be fair, this guy is extraordinarily angry with very good reason, and he says it a whole lot better than I could.
You got it there?
Just a moment.
Wow, Scope, that photo's amazing.
Sorry, I'm having technical issues.
Take your time, you'll find it. I mean, it's there, just... Yeah.
Of having to tell the government what to
There you
do
go.
because they have their heads in their asses. Now follow me. There's something that's been bothering me, so I'm just going to say it now. Dear government, we understand that the virus is not your fault. It happened. It is what it is. I'm not going to get into that idea that maybe you could have acted sooner. We can deal with that when this is all over. But here's the deal. We need a real fucking plan. It was the right move to make everyone stay home because that's the only way to deal with a virus like this. But here's where I have a problem. So, you told us to shut down non-essential businesses. You told us to go home and quarantine. You told us we have to keep social distance and stay inside. But you told us you would help. So where is the fucking help? These checks are what they are. I mean, let's be serious. I'm not going to turn away $1,200 because number one, if you're going to give it to me, I'm taking it. And number two, it's our fucking money, not yours. It's ours. We paid that in taxes for everything we do every fucking day. So, okay. Look at the typical family: mortgage payment, healthcare payment, car payments, electric, water, garbage.
Wow,
blah,
yeah,
blah, blah, blah.
I've
So
seen
maybe
this.
the $1,200 covers the mortgage. But what about all the other costs that we have
that.
each month? This $1,200 thing isn't doing shit for the normal working family. You want to help? Here's what I did. Tell the fucking banks and mortgage companies to stop all mortgage payments at this time. Just stop.
Sorry, the video is actually playing at the moment, sir. I'm going to resume the video.
Them and don't give me that 3-month furlough bullshit. How does that even make sense? So someone who lost their job because you said to stay at home doesn't pay mortgage for 3 months, but in the 4th month they have to not only pay that month that's due, but also the 3 months they owed in full because it was furloughed? How the fuck does that help, you greedy cocksuckers? Someone was just unemployed and not earning money for 3 months. They weren't earning money. Hello? Now they just start back to work and all that money magically appears so they can pay the 3 months in a lump sum. How are they fucking paying that? Are you fucking idiots? Look, it almost makes sense that they can start paying the current mortgage due for the month when they go back to work. But they can't pay the prior 3 months. They had no income. So here's the idea. Just add the 3 fucking months of the furlough to the back end of the loan. So if they have, let's say, 19 years and 6 months left in their mortgage, just add the 3 months. So now they have 19 years and 9 months. How fucking hard is that? You'll get your money, you shitbags. It's just delayed. The working stiff wins if you do that. It really helps. It actually helps. And what is up with these banks and lending assholes? I mean, come on. You literally make billions of dollars in profit quarterly. That's every 3 months. The last crash was 10 years ago. So you have 10 years of massive profits and you need a bailout after 2 weeks of a shutdown? How come we, the people, have to save for a rainy day, but you save nothing? Every fucking quarter that you made $3 billion in profit, not income, profit, and all that means you paid all your salaries and bills and everything you needed to pay to run a company for 3 fucking months. So every time you made $3 billion in a quarter, if you had just put $1 billion in the bank, you'd have $40 billion in the bank in 10 years. That's not even including interest.
Yep, hold on a tick, Scope.
You
The
greedy
video's playing.
cocksuckers have to get bailed out again from our taxpayer money, and then you shit on us by not giving us a real break on our mortgages, credit card bills, or car payments, or anything, and the government allows this. We get fucked. We bail you out, we get fucked. Rinse, lather, repeat. You dirt neck fucking pieces of shit should have had more than enough money to keep paying your workers and and give everyone a break in mortgage payments the way I said for the time being. And again, I'm not saying to wipe the slate clean. I'm saying to just add the missing mortgage payment to the back end of everyone's loans. Do it for everything. The car lease is now 3 months longer. The credit card payment is now 3 months longer. The mortgage payment is now 3 months longer. You want to help the American worker, you can eliminate all payments due until this is over. That way, unemployment and stimulus checks would only be needed for food. That is what the American family needs now. That would help us. You greedy cocksuckers and you government lackeys who suck the balls of the big corporations and shit on the people are just as bad. Shame on you all. There could be a real plan in place, a real plan to get people through these next few months, a real plan to be testing, a real plan to allow workers who are considered non-essential to not worry about catching a virus and losing their house. You do the right fucking thing, you peckerheads. Having to tell the government what to do because they have their heads in their asses, that's what fucking ticks me off.
Oh wow, every time I watch that video, that was epic. The look he gives the camera at the end of that video that'd make the glass in the camera break.
Sorry about the interruption, guys. I just didn't know you were playing it. Please forgive me. I'll be a little more cautious next time.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
No problem, Scope. Now that we're playing the music through like a direct YouTube link, I can't hear it either. I've got no idea it's going, so I'm just sort of waiting.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a way where you play it there. I got to figure that out. How that works, so you can actually hear that here in Discord as well.
Oh, that would be awesome.
I've actually been looking into that a little bit. There's going to be a few small changes over the next couple of days.
Oh, bravo. You know, as far as the interaction goes up here in the United States with the police, the police have not been making stops on the highway unless they absolutely have to. And they have not been engaging the public. All the cities where you normally see the meter maids out there checking the cars have all gone away. So people are enjoying free parking around in the large cities now. And, they're not having to pay. So the cities are definitely missing that revenue. But it's been a lot easier for the people who absolutely have to get out there day to day and find a place to park. Are getting a little bit of a break. And the other thing that's pretty amazing is we're seeing, when people are gathering together, say in the parks, on the beaches, that seems to be where the police flock to sometimes, to engage those people who are out in public, by themselves. You're hearing some ridiculous stories about arrests of people being in the park, sitting alone by themselves, and the police coming up and engaging them. There was a good clip out there of a couple of men who were sitting with their young child. They were actually putting some sunscreen on the child's forehead, cheeks, and face, and the police walk up and surround them, about 5 or 6 of them. And the way that this man handled that conversation was just beautiful. How he reminded them who was going to be coming for them when they were home, the same people that they were working for, he reminded them would be coming for them and their families, and like they were coming for him and his child. It was a pretty amazing clip.
Wow. So if you don't stand up first, there's no one left to stand up for you when you're the last. Is that the lesson?
Yeah, pretty much. That story, when they came for the bakers, I did nothing. When they came for the carpenters, I did nothing. And when they came for me, there was no one left to do anything for me.
Hell of a story, mate. Very applicable in today's times too.
but they left him alone. They backed off, left the gentleman alone, and walked away. It was pretty amazing how when you bring it down to a personal level like that, and more of a moral discussion, how quickly their attitudes and their aggression seems to drift away from the incident, and they start looking at you as a true person, an individual, when you start pointing out the moral aspect of what it is that they're doing at the moment. Rather amazing.
That's a rather important point. The moral equation here is that we have to act as good people. And I believe there's a phrase, common ground or common grave. If we don't stand up with allies and friends and the rest of the people in our society, we don't have a voice individually. So we stand as one, but we rise as millions. It's I could talk about this for a while, actually. I mean,
I'm sorry, I was just going to say, you put that so well. That was extraordinary. Hope lots of people heard you explain that. That's a fabulous way of putting it.
I think it came from an American poet. She's a black elderly lady, and I can't remember her name. Something Jones? No, Maya Angelou. With that,
Yeah, that's her, Maya Angelou.
And it's from people like poets that have thought longer and harder about these things and then put them into better words than I have. That's the benefit and that's the beauty of poetry, I guess. Stand as one, but rise as millions.
You know, you bring up an interesting thought. You know, when we look at our poets and we look at our songwriters, back in the 50s and 60s, you know, those people were part of a great movement. You know, listening to some of their poems and their songs about, you know, the current events and what was going on, and they played such a big part in drawing people's attention to the actual moments of what was truly happening in those times. Back in the, you know, the Vietnam War era, back in the 60s, you know, in the early 70s. And we don't see as many poets and folk songwriters as we did in those times. And it's truly a loss.
What we have now is conglomerate music. And then we've got street level musicians, and there's nothing in between. I can't go out and see a band. I certainly can't do it while the coronavirus is around. But I remember when I was younger, there used to be a lively music scene in the cities that I lived in. That just doesn't exist anymore. Now it's just a few people that get tanked and get a harmonica and a fiddle and a set of drums, and they play old style pub music. And then I get in the car and I listen to, what's her name, Taylor Swift and whatever her name, Perry is. And there's no comparison between the two. And there's, like I said, there's no middle ground that people like Bob Dylan, there's no equivalent to Bob Dylan at the moment. Tangled Up in Blue is one of my favorite songs. And I wish I could say that I was living in an artistically healthy environment that had musicians not as good as him, but musicians that had a platform, something in between just roustabouting and the endless pop stream of filth that pours out of the radio. It's a very interesting set of circumstances, that's for sure.
Yeah, Duster, you're right. As I think about that, you know, back in the day when music was filling the airwaves, and the caliber of songs, or the actual musicians themselves who really enjoyed their field, their profession, the music, the people, the words, the phrasing. They put a lot of that out there from their own life experiences and what they've seen in the world and their feelings of friends and comrades. now today is slanted in a way that you have studios that have songwriters that are hired by the conglomerates, and they write the songs as the way the studio would like to see them, and then they bring on these pop star singers, like you mentioned, and give them the song and say, "You're going to sing this song. Um, here's the band, and we're going to come up with some tunes, and we want you to perform this music, and we're going to put out an album using your voice." And the musicians sometimes kind of buck the system, don't want to really participate, but because they're trapped in these contracts, they basically have to do their bidding. And some of the artists of today truly have a problem putting out the albums as written by other songwriters. Although there are some good ones out there, there are also some ones that are slanted in the wrong direction as well.
Yeah, you mentioned the studio system, and that's just evil from the ground up. It's all about creating a psychological operation that conditions us to want things like new stuff, new cars, all that consumerism, hyper consumerism. But it's also natural music versus synthetic music. And I'd rather not have the synthetic version when the natural version is available. It's we're not consuming what we want to consume. We're consuming what we are told to consume. And that's why I go back to Bob Dylan again. The guy was a poet and a songwriter and an activist, and there's no comparative performer today that would represent Bob Dylan's place in society. It just doesn't exist anymore.
Sadly, your points are dead on target. You're absolutely right in what you speak, and when you control the words that these performers and singers have to deliver to their fans and their public, it eliminates the competition, and it points it in a one direction only, where you do not get the true talents that these people have. They may be good song singers and their voices may be excellent, but they also have an artistic value locked within their brain and within their heart and within their soul that they would also, I'm sure, like to deliver. It's probably why they got into the business to begin with, to express themselves and to connect with people and have people connect with one another. And that's truly what is missing. You're dead on. I agree with you.
Thank you, sir. We got about 49 minutes, 50 minutes or so on the clock. How would you guys like to spend it? I wouldn't mind going through the rest of Oz's articles. Carmen, Honey, or Scope, or Oz, would you rather see us take a different tack? Are there any more videos that you'd like us to play?
Not without checking whether we're going to get, shut down for playing them. It's not worth it.
Okie dokes, gotcha. Carmen?
I'm good with articles.
And Scope, sir, are you happy to roll with some articles?
Oh, absolutely. You guys have some of the most interesting information that go to the wayside. Most of the time, people don't get to hear these wonderful articles and information that you guys bring to us. So I'm thrilled every time that I can get to listen to some of this new information that I don't know about. It's so educating. So yes, thank you.
There's a question in chat from Beatles to Scope, but I can't do two things at once. Hold on. Are you able to see? Hang on, I'll send it to you in a photo.
Hang on, I got Benny's question up.
Thank goodness.
Okay, Beatles. He says to Scope, have you ever watched this? Thought Y2, The Millennial Whoop, Why Modern Music is Rubbish, The Great Awakening, Where We Go One, We Go All. And modern music is mostly rubbish. But there's certainly nothing like Nirvana around at the moment, and certainly nothing like go back to Bob Dylan again.
Yes, and no, I've never seen that. Rather interesting. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. I'll have to give it a look.
Okay, we'll roll with Oz's articles. Give me a moment to go through my files, please. Okay, we're off to China now, and this comes out of the Washington Examiner. And it's from today. And the byline is Gavin Clarkson, and the headline reads, just a moment. Okay, the headline reads, to make China pay, engage America's allies and seize its assets around the world. This is a cold read for me. I'm doing this without having familiarized myself with the document, so I will repeat the title. To make China pay, engage America's allies and seize its assets around the world. So this sounds like a rather aggressive power grab against China, but we'll see what the article has to say. Okay. In a previous Washington Examiner op-ed, I suggested we make China pay for the damages inflicted on the public by the communist dictatorship's negligence, deception, and ruthless misinformation after the outbreak of the novel coronavirus. I called for President Trump to offset the astounding costs of the economic stimulus partially by using emergency powers to confiscate all of China's $1.1 trillion in US Treasury bonds and freezing the remainder of its assets. That seems to be a fairly draconian step, but we'll continue. To compound the impact of that proposal, China expert Gordon Chang suggests we should engage our allies to isolate China economically. This effect would be even more devastating than going it alone. China wants to be the world's only superpower by 2049. What they fear most, however, is encirclement. Knowing that they messed up badly, Chinese leaders launched a massive propaganda effort to reframe the narrative, casting America as the villain and the Chinese Communist Party as the savior. But even in that, their incompetence and perhaps malevolence have shown forth whether their selling back of donated pandemic supplies to countries such as Italy, or their peddling of defective testing kits to our NATO allies, or their case of numbers dubious to the point of incredibility. The diplomatic conditions are ripe to fight back by strengthening our bonds with that hardest hit nations, particularly those that share mutual defense agreements with the United States. Okay, jumping ahead slightly. Many developing nations have been financially abused by China's One Belt, One Road strategy. The regime has loaned billions to developing nations in Africa, Eastern Europe, and Latin America, then seized their strategic ports and facilities once the debts came due. China's negligence provides justification for those nations to fight back by reclaiming ownership of those strategic assets and cancelling debts owed to China as compensation for coronavirus negligence. Collectively, we can isolate this evil regime just as we have isolated Iran and North Korea. This is an interesting one you hooked here, Oz. Okay, As a former computer science professor, I was on a major cybersecurity committee after 9/11, and the level of cyber attacks have increased exponentially since then, with China, North Korea, and Iran being the primary antagonists. I can actually, my own comment here is there's obviously an agenda behind this article, and it does come from the Washington Examiner. In particular, the Chinese Communist Party and its subsidiaries and its proxies constantly engage in cyber attacks. These cyber attacks alone provide ample justification for a robust response. Confiscating China's assets around the world is more than justified by the damage their delays and deception have caused. We should also take further steps individually and in concert with our allies and other nations suffering from the pandemic and its fallout to divest ourselves of any investment in companies controlled by or closely tied to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, especially those that are essentially espionage arms for intellectual property theft, such as Huawei and ZTE. Now is the time to turn the tables on the communist Chinese dictatorship and treat them like the big boy member of the international community that they have aspired to be. There should be a heavy price to pay when your negligence harms the entire world. My comment here is it's a very long bow to draw that this was that the Chinese were actually proactively behind the release of the COVID-19. That's a pretty big leap to make. It could have been anyone from any number of different agencies under any circumstances. We simply do not know the archaeology of the COVID-19 release, and I doubt that we ever will. This article looks to be ramping up for war, though. And that's the end of that one.
Yeah, Dumpster, there's been some thought put out there about, if China is truly held accountable, some of the debt that are owed by these countries around the world, they may be able to recoup some of that debt and have China, wipe that out. That would be rather interesting to have a lot of these countries debt-free from China. Be a fresh start for them. If that comes about, that would truly be amazing.
We live in a very strange world, do we not?
Agreed.
Hey Dumpster, there's an article there dropped by Scope. It looks quite interesting. True.
Hey, do you want to DM that to me, please, Oz?
Oh yeah, sure. Here it comes.
Gotcha, Oz. I will address this immediately. Okay, this is Mr. Fauci, little deep state so-and-so that he is. This comes from an outfit called True Pundit, and it's less than an hour old, I think. I can't find a byline yet. The headline reads, exclusive, top scientist and HIV/AIDS researcher, pioneer Dr. Judy Mikovits blows whistle on Dr. Fauci. Disturbing details of threats, research theft, tainted vaccines, fraud, cover-ups, pay to play. I'll read that again. Exclusive. Top scientist and HIV/AIDS research pioneer Dr. Judy Mikovits blows whistle on Dr. Fauci. Disturbing details of threats, research theft, tainted vaccines, fraud, cover-ups, pay to play. Okay, this one's real quick. I'll read the whole thing. A top US scientist and research pioneer, Dr. Judy Mikovits, has broken her long silence, revealing an insider's nightmare spanning 3 decades of conducting research under the governmental control of Dr. Anthony Fauci, and the allegations are downright frightening. And if true, these details warrant a host of new federal investigations to get to the bottom of numerous Fauci-led schemes revealed by Dr. Judy Mikovits on the Thomas Paine podcast on Tuesday. Dr. Mikovits said Fauci helped imprison her after stealing her proprietary research not once, but twice, and her allegations against the White House's coronavirus's top medical advisor and his government cronies paint a disturbing portrait of widespread institutional corruption and greed. The alarming allegations include stealing research, covering up tainted vaccines, fraud, and much more. And Fauci's parent agency, the National Institute of Health, is not the only government agency involved in what amounts here to decades of corruption gone awry. I'm not going to muck around with the audio in this one. But if you check that out, there's a clip there.
I reckon maybe jump down to number 13 and then you could work back to the others. It's going a bit viral.
Sure, I will. Okay, this is Article 13. I've addressed the first two and the last one. So this is 13. 14 will follow. Several meat process... And hang on, this comes from... hang on. You'll drop the link, won't you, Oz? Okay, several meat processing plants around the US are sitting idle this week because workers have been infected with the coronavirus. Tyson Foods, one of the country's biggest meat processors, says it suspended operations at its pork plant in Columbus Junction, Iowa, after more than 24 workers got sick with COVID-19. National Beef Packing stopped slaughtering cattle at another Iowa plant, and JBS USA shut down work at a beef plant in Pennsylvania. Which brings us to Article 14.
Well, it's sort of what within the Great Awakening and within the research, it's what we sort of believe these meat processing plants are actually processing is not just animal meat. So, you know, it remains to be proven, but it sort of it took a pandemic to shut down a lot of these meat processing plants, and that's a very good thing.
So we've been eating our own at Macca's and KFC and Pizza Hut.
Well, we don't know, not, unconfirmed, but that's the sort of research we look into.
Yeah, you've come up with this kind of stuff before. What's your best guess as to how much human meat actually ends up in our food? Enough to worry about, or should I just ban anything that's not a mum and pop store?
I don't know. Just based on my own research and opinion, and that's still, I just don't eat that sort of food. That's just what I do. I don't.
Yeah, I'm going to look differently at a cheeseburger from now on, that's for sure. I should probably not even buy another cheeseburger in my whole existence.
But this is very big news, I think, the meat processing plants shutting down. It's, sorry, my sound keeps cutting out. Anyway, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. I don't know what to say because I don't know what we're allowed to say.
Hang on.
Well, I do know. If you grow your own beef, you know your hamburger's good.
Excellent point. Thank you, Carmen. I haven't quite got room for a cow in the garage.
Then go halves with somebody that does.
Halves in the garage or halves in the cow? Halves in the land?
Well, halves on the cow.
Yeah, that'd be a nice way to do it. Imagine being able to buy meat directly from the farmer. That would be progress.
We still do it that way around here.
Not where I am. That sounds like an ideal solution, though, to many problems, actually. Okay, now we've got AG Barr, who says Durham can announce probe outcome during election season. No candidate is a target. Attorney General Bill Barr said there is no time limit on when he would make public any indictments, such as near the 2020 election, as none of the targets of the investigation are running for president. Okay. Barr told radio host Hugh Hewitt on Tuesday that this would be different than former FBI Director James Comey announcing the decision not to charge Hillary Clinton in 2016 because she was the Democratic nominee for president. The idea is you don't go after candidates, Barr said. You don't indict candidates or perhaps someone that's sufficiently close to a candidate that it's essentially the same, within a certain number of days before an election. But, as I say, I don't think any of the people whose actions are under review by Durham fall into that category. Are you shocked by what you have found to date or have been briefed by U.S. Attorney Durham to date about? Hewitt asked. I wouldn't use the word shocked, right? I'm very troubled by it, but I think the reason that we have this investigation is because there are a lot of things that are unexplained. And I think we're getting deeply into the situation and we'll be able to sort out exactly what happened, Barr responded. Wow. So it's getting real. And Barr's not actually going after any of the presidential candidates. Hey Oz, can you cover for 90 seconds, please?
Man, you're killing me.
I'll be back as soon as I can.
Okay. Carmen, let me throw to you, my love. Carmen, let me think. What will you be doing today? How about that? After you finish here with us, what's your plan for the day? Because my day's coming to a close. It's 10:30. I'll be going to sleep around midnight, hopefully. I was up till 4 a.m. this morning, but I was mucking up. I was wreaking havoc on a tennis website, so I will be getting an early night tonight.
Is that a promise?
I always say it, don't I? And then I start, having a little look here and a little look there and popping into a couple of servers, and then before I know it, it's 3 and 4 a.m. But the servers are pretty quiet at the moment, so perhaps I will grab an early night. It's not a promise, though.
I'm just going to tinker around the house and watch some YouTube videos, see what's on.
Awesome. What about you, Scope? Oh, you're going to work, or you're at work now. Have they started up the fountain at your office yet, Scope, or is that still out of order? No, he must be detained at the moment. Detained by the police. Okay, I'm going to find a little song, I think. See what we can do.
I'm back, and the song sounds like a wonderful idea. If you want to drop that into YouTube, not into YouTube, into, what is it called? It's sitting in front of me and it's called Discord. If you want to drop that into Discord, I'll be more than happy to play that actually. And like I said, guys, I'll be adding a little bit of harder techno, just something for the middle of the show. I certainly don't want you to start your morning off with, well, the kind of music that you party to. And nor should you end the day with that kind of music. But in the middle of the show, I think it's more than appropriate.
And I did hear you.
Okay, this is for blah blah. And everybody else, of course, all of us together, where we go, when we go.
It's rolling.
Hello, can you hear me?
We're in the middle of a song, mate. Okay, music is over. That was awesome. Love that one. Very sort of ambient techno, the kind of stuff you cruise around on a Saturday afternoon during summer. Very nice. Thank you, Oz.
You're welcome, and I'll just go and listen to ABBA.
Waterloo, la 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 la, Waterloo. Okay, we're up to Article 4 from Oz, and this one's about Creepy Joe. I'll just pop this open and read it for you. Okay, this comes from the Washington Examiner, and it's from today, and I can't find a byline. Just a moment, please. Okay, it's Emily Larson and Joseph Simonson. And it reads, the headline to the article reads, Active Investigation, DC Police Probe Sexual Assault Allegation Against Joe Biden. Who'd have thought, huh? The Metropolitan Police Department of the District of Columbia is actively investigating the complaint against Joe Biden brought by Tara Reade, the woman who accused Biden of sexually assaulting her in 1993, despite her allegation on being made impossible to prosecute since it is past the statute of limitations. This is an active ongoing investigation and there are no further details to provide at this time, a Metropolitan Police Department spokesperson told the Washington Examiner Tuesday regarding Reade's case. Cases that are handled by the Metropolitan Police Department's Sexual Assault Unit go through a multi-review prior to being assigned a disposition. This case is progressing through the review process. The investigation remaining open, despite the alleged incident occurring past the statute of limitations, struck through multiple experts as highly unusual. Reade, that is Tara Reade, alleges that in 1993, when she worked as a staff assistant in Biden's Senate office, he pushed her up against the wall and penetrated her with his fingers. Biden's presidential campaign vehemently denies Reade's allegation, although the former two-term vice president has yet to comment on the matter directly. And jumping ahead slightly, well, the middle third of the document, in fact. The decision by the DC Police Department struck several former police officers as peculiar, citing the fact that there is ultimately little law enforcement can do should they believe Reade's allegations. One former officer who spent years on the force in Washington and spoke to the Washington Examiner on the condition of anonymity because he now works as a consultant for various police departments around the country, said the move struck him as out of the ordinary. I wouldn't expect the department to look into this for that long, maybe just take a report and close it out, but it would also automatically be closed. They wouldn't spend time investigating something they can't prosecute, the individual said. I'm sure the DC Police Department has plenty of work without creating it. Obviously, it's a very high-profile case, so a high-profile case gets a lot more attention. Unfortunately, than if the victim or offender wasn't a known public figure. In spite of that, I wouldn't expect them to proceed on something that had no chance of getting prosecution. Robert Pusins, a former police officer in Florida who now serves as an expert witness in civil trials, said he thinks the case is open because it involves a high-profile person such as a former vice president. It's a balancing act, and either way, the police are going to get caught in the middle and criticised for not investigating thoroughly or investigating thoroughly a 30-year-old claim, Pusins said. Reade, Tara Reade that would be, told the Washington Examiner that she hopes this development encourages any other people who might have an allegation against Biden. Just a moment. And the tail end to this article is, there is a mechanism for them to remain anonymous by going to the DC Metro Police or they can direct them to their law enforcement, she said. So there you go. Creepy, sleepy Uncle Joe was doing it 3 decades ago. And now we've got a quickie, number 5. Government Mike Huckabee for a laugh. Is this supposed to be a joke, Oz? I don't get the...
Oh, it's okay. I posted. I'll post the tweet on there. It's just a tweet. I'll just post it up there. That's okay.
Okay, we've got Government Mike Huckabee for a laugh. People freaking out about price of oil going below $0 yesterday. Not me. I went and filled up my car and they gave me a check for $27.15 and a coupon for a Slurpee.
Sorry, everything's really slow. I'm in a really bad lag here. I think I have you on real time in my ear. On my screen, it must be about 15 to 20 seconds, or probably about 15 seconds slow. I don't know what's going on. But anyway,
Oh, you're listening to me through YouTube, which is why you've got the 11.5 seconds delay.
No, I'm listening to you on Discord, but the vision is YouTube because I'm trying to keep in touch with all our friends in chat as well. And jumping around. Yeah, it's really chaotic, but it's fun. But sorry to everyone for the a bit of things being a bit disjointed at times.
Hey, that's what the people here come for. They come here for disjointed yet incredibly accurate and life-changing, or they can go for completely inaccurate and just watch CNN. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not polished. We're real.
Exactly. We are the news now. It falls to people like us to tell the truth, because I'm not watching it on any TV set, that's for sure. And we're off to Kuala Lumpur. An Australian frigate has joined 3 US warships in the South China Sea, near an area where a Chinese vessel is suspected to be exploring for oil, near waters also claimed by Vietnam and Malaysia, officials said on Wednesday. The warships arrived this week close to where the Chinese government survey ship Haiyang Dizai 8 has been operating, which is in turn near where a vessel operated by Malaysia's Petronas State Oil Company is conducting exploratory drilling, regional security sources have said. The US Navy said on Tuesday the USS America amphibious assault ship and the USS Bunker Hill, a guided missile cruiser, were operating in the South China Sea. They were joined by Australia's frigate, the HMAS Parramatta, and a third US vessel, the destroyer, the USS Barry. Anyway.
Sorry, Dums. Sorry, I have to correct you there, friend. It's Parramatta and Bazaar.
It's the land of the falafel and Baz. Only the Australians would have gotten that. Anyway. And a third US vessel, the destroyer USS Baz, as part of a joint exercise, the Australian Defence Department said. During the passage exercises, the ships honed interoperability between Australian and US navies, including replenishment at sea, aviation operations, maritime maneuvers, and communications drills, it said in a statement to Reuters. Okay, number 7, and we're back to more about the coronavirus vaccine funding. And 3 companies shortlisted to receive funding to develop coronavirus vaccines from the Department of Biotech. The Department of Biotechnology has so far shortlisted 3 companies for funding. the development of a vaccine for COVID-19. Besides 13 other proposals it received for diagnostics, therapeutics, and other interventions to fight coronavirus. The three companies are Cadelia Healthcare Limited, Bharat Biotech International Limited, and Serum Institute of India Private Limited. The DBT said a multifaceted approach is being adopted to ensure that vaccine companies utilizing different platforms and at different stages of development are fast-tracked through a research consortium under funding from the National Biopharma Mission, an initiative launched in 2017 to support the development of vaccines and drugs. The Department of Biotechnology and the Biotechnology Industry Research Assistance Council had invited applications on the COVID-19 Research Consortium. The first phase of the call ended on 30th of March, and around 500 applications were received from academia and industry, the DBT said in a statement. And number 8's disappeared on me. What was number 8, I wonder? And for
Yeah,
number...
sorry. Yeah, sorry. That was an accident.
Okay, it might be 8, it might be 9, I'm not sure, but it's off to Australia now, and our Prime Minister, ScoMo. Now get this, coronavirus. Prime Minister Scott Morrison talks with Bill Gates over World Health Organization's future amid pandemic. Scott Morrison discussed the future of the World Health Organization, and with one of its biggest donors, he spoke with Bill Gates on Tuesday. Just days after the Microsoft founder and philanthropist used a global broadcast organized by Lady Gaga to appeal for support for the embattled global health body. Mr. Morrison and Mr. Gates, who are also understood to have discussed vaccines and the Indo-Pacific's health challenges. The Gates Foundation is one of the WHO's biggest voluntary donors, providing $836 million over the last 2 years. Mr. Gates has been publicly critical of a decision by US President Donald Trump to suspend his country's funding for the World Health Organization. The US is the largest donor to the World Health Organization, having provided more than $631 million in 2019, which is about 15% of its budget. Halting funding for the World Health Organization during a world health crisis is as dangerous as it sounds, Mr. Gates tweeted recently. Their work is slowing the spread of COVID-19, and if that work is stopped, no other organization can replace them. Mr. Trump has argued that the WHO failed to adequately obtain, vet, and share information in a timely and transparent way, leaving a global trail of death and destruction. Mr. Morrison recently expressed some sympathy for Mr. Trump's criticisms, pointing to the way Australia preemptively declared a pandemic before the World Health Organization. Australia has worked closely with the World Health Organization for more than 7 decades. And Carmen, that is exactly the point. If hydroxychloroquine in combination with Z-Pak cures it, we don't need the vaccine. That's the beautiful part. We don't actually have to poison ourselves. Do not drink the Kool-Aid in this situation. I would go so far as to say do not inoculate your children against any disease, but make sure that they get as many diseases as possible the natural way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, have a chickenpox party.
Or a measles party, exactly. Okay, I've got one more story in me, and this one is about Attorney General Barr says he may go after governors who persist on authoritarian coronavirus lockdown orders. Woohoo! I'm not sure who added the woohoo, but there's a woohoo in there. U.S. Attorney General Bill Barr on Tuesday said he may go after governors who insisted on maintaining authoritarian coronavirus lockdown orders. The DOJ could take legal action against governors drunk on power and infringing on constitutional rights, Bill Barr said, according to Bloomberg News. Barr said on the Hugh Hewitt show that states' stay-at-home orders are justified up to a point, but the DOJ could target state and local officials by joining lawsuits filed by citizens over the authoritarian restrictions. We have to give businesses more freedom to operate in a way that's reasonably safe, Barr said, according to Bloomberg, to the extent that governors don't and impinge on either civil rights or on the national commerce. Our common market that we have here, then we'll have to address that. As lawsuits develop, as specific cases emerge in the states, we'll take a look at them, he said. We're looking carefully at a number of these rules that are being put into place, and if we think one goes too far, we initially try to jawbone the governors into rolling them back or adjusting them. And if they're not, and people bring lawsuits, we file statement of interest and side with the plaintiffs. Governors such as Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan are drunk on power and losing the consent of the governed. Crazed Democrat Governor Whitmer has banned citizens from driving to their own lake houses for no reason other than because she said so. Other state and local officials have threatened pastors who dare to keep their churches open during the shutdown. Protests have erupted across the country because people want to be free and to get back to work. I think I can squeeze in one more article. There's here we go. Those Amish are playing up and causing problems for everyone again. Blasted Amish. This one comes out of the Daily Mail Australia. And the headline is, Cops raid an Amish barn party with more than 100 people during a lockdown in Ohio and bust underage minors for drinking. I'll just go through the bullet points here. Ohio police broke up a large Amish barn party with more than 100 attendees shortly after midnight Sunday in Huntsburg Township. Cops found 100 people partying in a barn, defying stay-at-home orders. One man was so intoxicated he was transported to a nearby hospital and arrested on a disorderly conduct charge. Those Amish can party. Build a barn in a day and then get loaded inside it. I like that. Anyway, I'll continue with the article. Officers issued one man a summons. 2 were charged with underage drinking. Governor DeWine has social distancing and stay-at-home orders in place for the state through May the 1st, as the state has over 12,000 COVID-19 cases. Okie dokes, guys. We've got 3 or 4 minutes on the clock. I'm pretty much at the end of my battery life.
You done really well, Dumpster. I don't know how you read so much and not get completely tongue.
It's a learned skill like any other. And Amanda R. out in YouTube's got a great comment. Let me tell you, the Amish can party. Laugh out loud? True. And Mocky One says Rumspringer, which is where they get a year off to do whatever they want. Party like you're Amish. Scope, sir, are you standing by perhaps? Okay, do you want to line up another song for us, Ozanon? Something that Carmen will be happy to go out on? Is this it here? Funk Space Jazz. Okay.
Oh, I don't know. She'll be happy to go out on that. It's just a little and I'll put something nice for.
Hey, have you got any problem with that, Carmen?
No, go ahead.
Gotcha. And Discord, I'm playing the song now. I'll let you know when the music is over. There you go, guys. Scope, perhaps are you standing by yet? Okay, Scope is still with us. His icon just illuminated. Do you want to play this song now and we'll close out with a prayer? Or shall we... Hang on, Scope's disappeared on us. I'll just play the Rick Grabenik. Scope, sir, were you there? You're badly roboting, mate.
Yeah, I'm in a server room. I'm so sorry. I'm in here working on trouble tickets, so I need to kind of.
Understood. We're going to close out the show with a quick prayer from Carmen and a little bit of music, and we'll be back to do it all over on Friday. And all things being equal, on Friday I will have a set of articles for you, or possibly a research presentation if I can find the time, on suppressed technologies, focusing on gravitoelectrics, so Tesla technology. And thank you, Rick Grabenik. Beautiful song and a very appropriate way to close out the show. Carmen, would you like to say goodbye? And Carmen, would you like to sign off for us?
Hey everyone, goodbye for today. What's today? Wednesday. See you again for Friday, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard, 8 p.m. Sydney time. And I wish you all a safe couple of days.
Okay, everybody. I'd just like to wish you all a very blessed day and take care of yourselves. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for everyone that joined together with us today. Be with each one, Lord, and help us to follow your will, and help us to understand and know the difference between the truth and what they're trying to feed us. Let us be discerning in everything. Bless and protect our president and all of the world leaders that are trying to help him. Give them strength and give them rest and give them guidance, Lord, to do your will for your people. All this we ask in the name of Jesus. Amen. See y'all Friday.
Amen. Thank you, Carmen. You want to say a quick goodbye, Oz?
Yep, goodbye again, everyone. Take care. See you on Friday.
Oh, that's right.
Thanks, Dumpster. Thanks, Carmen. That's okay. Thanks, Scope. And Puppy, if you're listening in, our prayers are with you, friend, and we look forward to having you back with us again soon. Take care. Look after yourself.
Take the time you need, mate. Your slot's not going anywhere. We look after our own in this outfit, that's for sure.
Yeah, baby. And Scope, thank you so much for being here with us.
We got the music rolling, guys.
There are times in life when things get overwhelming, and I've gone as far and as long as I can go. And when I need the most, my failing friends astound me. Lord, you're there, you've been comfort to my soul. And I believe in you. Every word that I've heard, and I know it's true. And when I'm walking through the valleys, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. I must walk by faith and not by sight, you told me. And there's rewards for those I know that seek your face. But I can use a glimpse right now, Lord, of your glory. And in my darkest hour, you give me strength. 'Cause I believe in you. Every word that I've heard, and I know it's true. And when I'm walking through the valleys, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. I raise my hand, sing hallelujah. For you are worthy of our praise. And when the storm comes, Lord, I am running to you. And I will glorify your name. As you walked my shoes, you felt my pain and suffering. And you took the nails for me while I was lost. And all the trials that I go through, Lord, they are nothing, no, compared to what you went through on that cross. I raise my hand, sing hallelujah. For you are worthy of all praise. And when the storm comes, Lord, I am running to you. I will glorify your name. 'Cause I believe in you. Every word that I've heard, and I know it's true. And when I'm walking through the valley, you will lead me through. 'Cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. And when I'm walking through the 'cause I believe you're with me, and I will trust in you. Trust in you.